Trying to see, it looks like it's only one occupant inside the vehicle. Looks like they may not be wearing a shirt or maybe a tank top, but they look like they're kind of lower, and they keep looking behind.
It's swimming around quite a bit,
yeah.
Colleen. I think they're hitting the 134 west right now as they are. The 210 moves over to the 134, and the suspect. Yeah, we're seeing that suspect kind of swim around in the lanes. I don't know if it's because he's doing something else. Perhaps we see them often on their cell phones. You see one hubcap that is missing. Not sure if that is in regards to the pursuit or something else. But they're moving at a decent rate of speed from what we understand. But as you can see, the freeways are wide open, Colleen.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of unusual at this time, but again, going in the opposite direction and crossing over pretty close over that 2 freeway. So again, you can just... Again, this has been going on for quite some time. So if the CHP did start on this, no word when they're going to try to get back in onto trying to pull over this suspect. But the suspect obviously wanted and just not pulling over. So it makes you kind of think what's going on in their mind right now.
65 miles per hour. That's what we're getting from Air 7 that is overhead watching this pursuit. So it's not an overly aggressive pursuit. It's not going at a super high rate of speed, basically going the speed limit. However, of course, he is not yielding. Now, keep in mind, we're being told that they believe that this is a stolen vehicle. It started in the Inland Empire and then has moved across, heading west, and now we enter Glendale.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we watch this, again, the car at some point was swerving. I couldn't tell if its rear view mirror was broken inward, but again, you saw that occupant in that vehicle just kind of swaying around himself, even acting a little bit erratic, just with his one hand on the steering wheel, looking behind him. Obviously, he sees authorities trying to pull him over. He's clearly not wanting to give up. But no word if it's just because he stole this car or if it's connected to any other crimes. But again, whenever someone doesn't want to give up, it makes you get a little suspicious on exactly why they're fleeing police and so desperate to get away.
Chino police in pursuit, so that's where you see those unusual vehicles. We understand this started with a CHP pursuit. We're not sure what transpired between then and now. Perhaps he got off to surface streets and Chino Hills took over, but we'll continue to watch that situation. Often we'll see when they enter the freeway and stay on the freeway, we'll see transference take place, and you'll see the CHP often take over if they stay on the freeway. But right now, Chino Hills still right behind them, of course, being tracked as well over the air, as are we, as we continue to watch him as he goes through Glendale on the 134 freeway. If you're in that area, beware, a pursuit is heading your way.
Absolutely. And again, we're watching live images, and it looks like he kind of is staying as much as he can in his one lane as he does pass under these overpasses. And again, you can see these cars realizing that there's a chase happening right behind him, and they try to get over to the side and get away from this police pursuit. But again, Chino Hills police in pursuit of a stolen vehicle suspect. This again started, we believe, in San Bernardino in the Inland Empire and making its way now into Glendale and on the 134. So you can see it moving through. You can see some of the visual points. So if you do know someone who needs to get home or needs to get on their way, this may be an area you may want to avoid because you never know how it's going to. Almost onto the 5. We're hearing from our Air 7 HD pilot, but coming up on the 5, which then we know tends to get very busy at this evening, especially with all the semi trucks using it for their transportation route.
You're right. And then basically we could probably step outside and stand on our helicopter and helicopter landing pad and watch this go right by our station, because this is very close to where we are in our ABC 7 studio. So there's a good shot of Glendale. I think that's the LA River that he's going to be going over right now. You'll see it going perpendicular to the freeway right there. And then we are nearby. Our station is right at that bend where the river is and the 134 and the 5 all come together. So that, if you're familiar with this area, that's where they're going. He's going to hit an interchange where he can go with the 134 or he can go over to the 5 freeway. So it looks like he's going to the right, which is going to lead him to the 134 westbound. And yeah, that looks like the direction that he is going towards the 134. So you'll see the soccer fields there, the tennis courts, etc., from Griffith Park, and the zoo is nearby as well. And there he's going at this moment parallel to the 5 freeway, but eventually it's going to go underneath the 5 freeway on the 134, and it's going to start heading west. Next stop would be the 170 and the 101.
Yeah, and we know, David, those areas are also, that's when there's a very good chance you're going to hit some traffic, especially if you hit the 101. Even at this time, we have a lot of traffic at this time.
Quite often, but you know, the traffic since spring break started has been a bit different when it comes to the patterns and the way it's been behaving. But boy, he has had a wide open run heading westbound right now on that 134, starting on the 210 to the 134. Now, you're right, as he gets closer to the 101, that's when it really starts bogging down. So he's going probably by Forest Lane right now, and from Forest Lane, he'll start going in towards the Toluca Lake area and then eventually to Studio City. He could go right and go up to 170 and head into North Hollywood. We'll have to watch him. But boy, this is wide open. I never see a drive like this at this time of the day. Usually this is totally bogged down at this time, Colleen. This is generally the way that there's the LA River on the right-hand side. This is the way I go home. And at this time, you're usually sitting in traffic. And it really starts to bog down, especially around Hollywood Way, which he's coming up to pretty shortly. It'll be interesting to see if the characteristics are the same tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he does take the 170 or the 101. But again, you see him right in the middle there, probably trying to decide, what am I going to do? And it really is kind of surprising to not see any traffic, because if you, Forest Lane Drive, they just passed it right there on the right-hand side. So not having anyone on the road, really having that freeway all to himself. And you can see it pixelating a little bit going right there. But again, not driving in crazy excess speeds. We know 65 miles an hour just a moment ago. We apologize for the pixelation. We look like we've lost Air 7 HD, but again, you're looking at the traffic, which is extremely light on the westbound side.
This is our traffic cam, so that's the traffic he's going to be heading into. So let's get you the basis of what we're looking at here. The pursuit is going to be way up there near the top. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, and he swerved, David. He really almost got in an accident.
On that camera, that traffic camera, or that one of our beauty shots, that is sitting around the Toluca Lake area, shooting towards the big ABC station. So, okay, so we're getting word from Air 7 that they pitted him. They tried the pit maneuver, but he just kept going. I could see what they were thinking, because they're coming up on traffic now. They had a wide open freeway, so that might have been their opportunity to do something before he gets into this, where he's around a lot of people. The pit maneuver did not work. Unfortunately, our signal broke up right then, but there he is. He's hitting the 134. He's going right by that ABC building, which is on Buena Vista, Colleen. And just like we see every night, it really gets thick right there as it heads towards the 101.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there in the carpool lane. That's on the far left-hand side. It's his carpool lane. That's usually a little bit more open, but eventually that will bog down too. As it gets towards the 101, it's really going to start slowing down, and he's going to have a couple of choices. He can go 101, head into Studio City, or he can get to the far right 2 lanes, and he can go to the 170.
Absolutely. And on the phone joining us right now is retired LA County Sheriff Sergeant Bruce Thomas. You are watching this pursuit happening. Air 7 HD is capturing it. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. And let's talk about it. Does the car look like it's kind of driving like it may have had its alignment kind of off?
Yeah, it looks like when they pitted, looks like there may be some TC damage, maybe some wheel damage. It looks like on the right side and the rear where they would have done the pit maneuver. But like you say, he is coming up to some heavy traffic. We are still in rush hour. And at this point, he's going to just follow. They're going to follow him.
Right. So as a law enforcement officer, what are you thinking right now as you're after this guy, and now you're dealing with some heavy traffic and a lot of cars around you? Do you just sit back and kind of wait this through and see what's going to happen, or do you take a more aggressive approach?
Yeah, David, you do. At this point, the public safety is tantamount. That's the most important thing. Also, the safety of the officer, and believe it or not, the safety of the suspect. So at this point, we're not going to force him to do anything crazy. We're just going to stay behind him, or we're just going to kind of wait it out.
Right. From what we understand, this is considered a stolen vehicle, although, of course, more information could be coming our way. But right now, we see this as potentially a stolen vehicle. So does that give you some indication that if that's all it is, that you handle it differently than, let's say, if this is a suspect wanted for a murder?
Yes, definitely you do. However, you treat any pursuit as a high-risk pursuit. You don't know if the suspect or suspects in the vehicle could be armed. At the terminus of the pursuit, the end of the pursuit, you always plan A, B, C, and plan D because you don't really know who is in that vehicle.
Absolutely. And we did see, Sergeant Thomas, we did see that it looked like there was just one person, and you can see Chino Police is actually involved in this pursuit. And we learned that the CHP was involved. So it's interesting. You see this Chino Hills Police Department pursuing the suspect in North Hollywood. At some point, would you hedge a bet to say that the CHP may get involved, or do they just back off if they see another set of police officers or other law enforcement pursuing this suspect?
Yeah, I think they would hand it over. I mean, Chino PD, they're not a huge police department like the Sheriff's Department or LAPD, so they have limited resources. So obviously this is a huge drain on their department. So by handing it over to CHP, who has multiple units and is familiar with this area, and eventually, if he gets off the freeway, maybe even ask LAPD, North Hollywood, or Van Nuys Division as he keeps going through the valley to help out and maybe parallel this pursuit.
All right. Well, we are learning some new information that the CHP had pulled out of this pursuit, and it's the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department that is in pursuit of this. We were maybe mistaken saying the Chino Hills Police Department, but we are learning that San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is in pursuit of this stolen car suspect. Again, this is still developing, obviously.
Okay, we have let's go to that pit maneuver, because now we're getting some video from Air 7 and when that pit maneuver took place. So watch closely, and you'll see that, yeah, he has slowed down. He's kind of getting to the traffic, and you'll see there's the pit maneuver by the police vehicle. It didn't really do much. Then he aggressively moves to the far right, and then he moves back into the middle lane. He really does accelerate, and then it kind of all slows down again and gets to where it is right now. So that happened 5 minutes ago or so, right when they got to the 134, as the traffic started getting a little bit slower. So that shows somewhat of an aggressive attempt there. But then now, as he continues down the 134, he's heading, if he stays in this direction, he's over in the far left lane, the carpool lane, and then he is, Sergeant Thomas, does that back right tire look like it's really diminished? Could he have been hit with a spike strip of some sort?
Yeah, it does look like there is some damage or some issues with the vehicle. The thing on the pit maneuver is you really have to come at it at an angle and really accelerate, meaning the police vehicle accelerating as it hits the suspect vehicle to spin the vehicle. In this case, it was a great attempt, but because the freeway K-rails were right there, they really weren't able to do what I think they really wanted to do. Yeah,
because if he kept going at that angle, he puts himself in danger and could very well have run his car or the suspect's car into the side of the freeway, which could have been really dangerous. Nevertheless, perhaps, maybe we don't know the early parts of this pursuit. We understand it started in San Bernardino. It went quite a ways. The fact that the CHP was no longer on this pursuit, but they started the pursuit, perhaps shows that he might have gone surface streets. Maybe that's where he got hit with a spike strip. There he is. This is where we're talking about. On the right, if he goes to the right, that's the 170. If he goes to the left, he's going to stay on the 101 and head into Studio City. And that's where he apparently is going. Where also, as we all know, if we go in that direction, that 101 is usually really bogged down because the next stop for the 101 is the 405. So he might be sitting in a lot of traffic here, Sergeant.
Yeah, he's at the interchange of the Hollywood and the Ventura. And like you said, David, he's now on the Ventura. And that area becomes a bottleneck right over in the Universal Studio City border. So he's going to be running some major traffic. He's obviously driving not in a lane of traffic, an emergency lane, but he's going to be bogged down in a little bit.
Heading towards the 405, Colleen.
Yeah, and David and Sergeant Thomas, I noticed that he may have put a sweatshirt on or something with a hood on the top of it, because before he didn't have a sweatshirt. It looked like he didn't have a shirt on. Now it looks like he has a shirt
covering
on
his
and a
head
hood.
maybe or something?
Yeah, I can't figure that part out, David.
Yeah, it's tough to see from here, but it does look like maybe he put something
over his head right now. He probably
arm too, because remember his whole arm was it was totally bare as well for a while.
Yeah, so there's a good look at what's going on right there in the driver's seat. He has his left hand is on the wheel, his right is down below. I don't know. Oh, okay, yeah. He put his hoodie on. He's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Looks like he has a shaved head of some sort. He's definitely fumbling around the car, and the car, it is swerving a lot. But we weren't quite sure if it was because he was just fumbling around in there. But now, the more we look at it, there may be some evidence of some kind of tire damage. Maybe he did get hit with a spike strip because the characteristics of the car, he seems to be floating around quite a bit. But he's refusing to give up, and he's let's watch this. Oh. He's looking
at his tire, I bet.
Whoa.
Wow,
is he trying to check out if he has damage to the bottom of his car? That's interesting. Obviously, Sergeant, pretty dangerous maneuver right there.
Yeah, he's doing some really bizarre things. I think he's trying to check out the rear tire, as you said, David. It's an older, it looks like a Toyota Camry, an older model. Those in older Hondas are probably the most stolen cars because they're easy to steal. But it looks like there may be just a little more to this stolen vehicle thing. Maybe he's under the influence. He might be a suspected gang member. Maybe he has warrants. So the police, in this case, San Bernardino sheriffs, are following him, but they don't want to do anything that's rash because you don't want to put anybody's lives in danger.
Right. Okay, so that was a good wide shot showing how traffic is moving. It's actually pretty good on the side of the freeway that he's on, which we never see. The other side of the freeway, obviously, the side of the freeway of the 101 that's going towards downtown, that is really bogged down. But still, there's going to be traffic, especially as he gets closer to the 405. And if he continues to that direction, he's definitely going to be running into something. But yeah, I was thinking about that, Sergeant, that maybe there are some characteristics of him being under the influence. Also, I swear, when we hit the backside of that vehicle and you watch the way it moves, it does seem to swim around a little bit differently. Like it's not so much the driver doing it that just seems to have some instability there. So perhaps there is some damage to his back tires, especially. That might have been what he was trying to check out.
Yeah, and we're learning that it is coming through the Studio City area right now, David, where again we've all talked about it. He's now hitting traffic, but. It's this driver. We have no idea how long. If authorities will back off of this and do the tracking mode, Sergeant Thomas. But from your years of seeing these pursuit suspects, they're not always exactly what you think they are. It's not always as simple.
That's correct. You always assume that there's something more than just a stolen vehicle pursuit. That's like anytime you do a traffic stop, your hair on the back of your neck stands up a little bit because you're approaching a vehicle which you know nothing about. So in this case, with San Bernardino sheriffs following, I would think at some point they would give this back to CHP as they're getting into territory they're really not familiar with at all. The other thing too, David and Colleen, which is really interesting, is this suspect has not gone back to the area that he was in. He has gone totally west from where he originally started.
Right. We often see that behavior where they stay close to what they are comfortable with. And we don't, of course, know where this guy is from. But this pursuit did start in San Bernardino. So he's already, if that were hypothetically his home, then he is going a long way from home and getting further away from it. As he continues to move in this direction, I imagine he'd be getting towards Sherman Oaks, and he's going to have basically three options. He can go towards the 405 and either go north or south, or he can stay on the 101 and head towards the Woodland Hills area. And from what I recall, all those options are pretty bogged down, especially if you head south in the 405, if you head down the 101 as well. Yeah,
both ways are typically very crowded, but again, with the spring break, it's sometimes holiday light traffic. But again, we're watching him. Again, and we look at it, and it seems like it's a struggle to keep that car going straight and staying within its lanes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there might be some damage there. Okay, so it's starting to bog down. I'm not sure exactly where they are off the 101. I just missed that freeway sign. We're trying to... Okay, Van Nuys Boulevard, so I know exactly where they are. So he's in basically the Sherman Oaks area. He just passed Van Nuys. Sepulveda will be coming up next, and that's when he's going to have to make some decisions of which direction he's going to go. Perhaps he'll just stay on the 101.
It looks like that's what it seems like. He's not at least hedging over to the right side. But again, this area gets very congested, and if you keep going over the 101, you're gonna go for quite a ways, and it seems quite lucky if you do steal a car that the car actually has fuel. That's you know, not always the suspect get lucky enough.
He has gone quite a ways. I'm very interested to see if CHP does take this pursuit over again, because they've been on the freeways for quite some time now, coming all the way from San Bernardino.
Does it look like the front hood, or is it lights reflecting? It could be. Looked like he was moving about his hands.
He's definitely moving around a lot. We've been seeing him fumble around a lot, but he was smoking a cigarette earlier. He could have a cell phone in there. Who knows? But he is very active in that driver's seat. Then he put the hoodie on. Then it blew off.
Yeah, sweatshirt on.
Then he opened the door while he was on the freeway and looked under the car, which was kind of frightening to see. But, you know, this is obviously a reckless character just for the nature of what is going on here, a police pursuit where he refuses to give up. Plus,
why is this car bike going next to him with his hazard lights on? Is he trying to film him?
Maybe he just already had it on. I don't know. Or maybe he's completely unaware. But you do have vehicles behind him with their lights and sirens. We're to assume the sirens are on, right, Sergeant?
That's correct, yes. They're driving code 3, which is lights and siren. However, when you're traveling at a higher speed, you're not going to necessarily hear the siren, but you're going to see the lights. So possibly the guy in the pickup truck, maybe an educated driver, realizes something going on, and he just has his hazards on just to warn other drivers maybe around him that something's coming.
Right. Okay, so now he's taking a move over to the right, and here's where he could go, the 405. Oh, wait, yeah, is that, I'm trying to see, that might be Sepulveda, which they just passed through. So he could, yeah, he's going towards the interchange here. There's the LA River, getting close to the 405, not quite there yet. But he's put it, oh, I'm sorry, I might be completely wrong. So, Carper, I'm sorry, I'm talking to a producer now. You say he just passed Woodman. Okay, so if he just passed Woodman, then Van Nuys is still coming, then Sepulveda and the 405. So I was a little bit ahead of myself when it comes to his positioning, which would make sense because it's getting sticky now. And as you get close to that 405, it really starts to bog down.
Yeah, the other thing, if I can just interject, if you pull out a wide shot, you saw an LA County Sheriff's helicopter there. What they've done is they've asked for mutual aid from the Sheriff's Department, it appears, so the helicopter can call the pursuit for the ground units.
Okay, yeah, that helicopter is vitally important, and even when the ground units quite often pull off, that helicopter will stay above, and you'll be able to track him. Have you found that to work well when they just go into a tracking mode in case the suspect becomes just too dangerous?
Oh, yeah. When the pursuit becomes too dangerous for the public, for the officers, for everybody involved, he's driving high rates of speeds, just driving very erratic, you go into the tracking mode. The helicopter is going to sit overhead, follow the suspect vehicle, the police cars back off. Other patrol cars kind of flood the area in a general vicinity, so when he does go to ground or foot bails, they can take him or her into custody. But the helicopter is basically just following, and the suspect hopefully will be more relaxed, a little more less stressed, so to speak, with the patrol cars not right behind him or her.
Well, that was interesting. There's a vehicle stopped just right there in the middle of the road, and this is right at the transition to the 405, the 101, and another vehicle just stopped there. I don't know if there's an accident that took place there just by coincidence, or they're stopping because of the emergency vehicles, but those vehicles on the right-hand side in that long line, they're in that long line to get on the 405 freeway. It looks like he's passing that up. He's going to stay on the 101, which means it will get sticky when you get to the other side of the 405, where the 405 traffic from the 405 is getting onto the 101, heading westbound, and it's still going to be a slow go for him. But
you notice, David and Sergeant Thomas, maybe the car doesn't have a lot of horsepower to it, but when he got stuck behind those two vehicles that looked like they may have stopped because of seeing emergency vehicles, he went very, very slowly around them. So it's almost like he's not making these erratic moves like we see with a lot of suspects. I don't know if that causes any different kind of concerns, like the car's running out of gas.
I think he has control problems. I think there is damage to the back tires, quite possibly. That might have been what he was looking at. And we've often seen this when people hitting spike strips. They start losing their grip, they start losing their ability to accelerate and their ability to stop. Is that right, Sergeant?
Yes, sir. David, what's the spikes?
A crash right there. He was putting his blinker on, too.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really aggressive move, especially with a bystander on the other side of him. They hit the car.
They sandwiched him.
It was. Oh no, he's going on the wrong side of the entrance ramp now. So it's good. I didn't have. Oh boy, there's a.
Oh.
Wow, this has become extremely dangerous suddenly. He went the wrong way down an entrance ramp, going right into a fuel tanker. He just missed it. He might have even grazed that fuel tanker, but we're going to do some analysis of
oh my goodness.
Oncoming traffic, turning back onto the freeway where the traffic is moving pretty quickly. Is this a 405, Carper? I think he might be on the 405.
He is now northbound in the southbound 405 freeway, right by the Slope of the Basin.
That was extremely dangerous. What do you think about that maneuver, Sergeant?
You know, I think there's going to be some post-pursuit discussion about that. I don't think anybody teaches to ram a vehicle like that, like the Riverside County Sheriff's did. Very, very dangerous maneuver. And now you can see the suspect is driving a little more aggressively and erratically because of the aggressiveness of the police officers.
Yeah, it raised his ire. You can absolutely see that. Now he's in this desperate attempt to get away as opposed to going the freeway. But that was a close call, and I find that surprising because he did run into a civilian, a bystander. He ran into there. You could see the damage to his side view mirror. He obviously scraped the side. I guess it was a Prius, Colleen.
Yeah, it looked like it was a Prius.
Yeah. So what I found surprising, though, is that's when the police officer made that aggressive move and rammed into his passenger side door. I'm not sure what he wanted to accomplish with that move, but it did get the suspect to really rise up, get out of there aggressively, go the wrong way down that entrance ramp, almost collide with a tanker truck, which could have been catastrophic, and a number of other vehicles. So that was some kind of move that he made. And now he was able to dodge some traffic, get on the 405 heading southbound. So that's where he is right now. He is in the carpool lane, the 405 southbound, and we're going to try to pull that video up for you so we can get some analysis.
Well, we're going to show that video right now, David, where he gets into that fender. He has his blinker on, gets into the crash with that other car right there. And then you see the sheriff's deputy sandwich him. And I guess maybe when the white car moved forward, it gave him a little edge to move out of the way. But here's where it gets incredibly tense to watch. Going
the wrong way down an entrance ramp, and look what's ahead of him. A tanker truck right there. He's able to maneuver just around. He might have even clipped it, might have even clipped that car right there. But that was such a dangerous maneuver. And then he's got oncoming traffic that he's going to be crossing into, going onto the 405. So right now, keep in mind, he's on the entrance ramp or the exit ramp of a 405. Transition, I should say. There he got onto the 405 heading southbound, so he made it. But boy, it was a close call in all those situations. But Sergeant, maybe that officer wasn't trying to ram him. Now that we look at it a second time, was he potentially trying to get ahead of him and then he moved forward, and so then the officer just turned his vehicle into his? I don't know. Watch closely. No,
yeah, you know, looking at the footage, it doesn't appear he was trying to ram him. It appears that he was maybe trying to get on the side of him, and because the other vehicles boxed him in and there was a traffic collision, the officer was just trying to get on the side, maybe to do a felony stop. It's a 50-50 call. But then what possibly you've now elevated the stolen vehicle to assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer.
Wow.
A felony.
Absolutely.
So this pursuit, they're not going to let this guy go. The other thing, too, is if you look at the recorded shot, you'll see there's multiple CHP units now involved in this.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I saw some CHP vehicles, they're cruiser cars right behind those SUVs. So it does show you that they may be handing it off, or at least they're assisting with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department.
All right. The left-hand side is the live picture right now. He's south of the Getty Center. We're being told he's going about 85 miles per hour right now in southbound 405. That's him right next to the carpool lane there, that yellow stripe there. He's moving in that older Toyota Camry. And on the right-hand side, you see an incident that happened just minutes ago where right now he's going the wrong way down a transition to the 101 from the 405, an extremely dangerous situation. He just missed a couple of vehicles, and he did collide with that one vehicle that we believe is a Toyota Camry. So, boy, that is something to see. So, put your attention now back onto the live picture you see on your left-hand side, and that is a live picture. The suspect using a blinker to transition. But he does still seem to be swimming around quite a bit. But we do know he has the capability of accelerating. We just saw that. So any question of his ability to get out and get moving quickly, he proved he could. Absolutely. And he's coming up onto Sunset Boulevard area. But Sergeant Thomas, maybe you can talk about this part, because we've heard in the past that once one of the, like during a pursuit, if the vehicle is touched by law enforcement, it does sort of raise the ante with the suspect, and they get more aggressive. It's almost like it's like it just changes the dynamic of a pursuit. Have you seen this as well?
Yeah, what you saw was a perfect example of he was driving. He wasn't driving that erratically or that high speed, and now law enforcement kind of pushed the issue a little bit. They had a collision. Suspect may have gotten spooked. His driving became extremely dangerous, the wrong way on a freeway, wrong way on an off-ramp, endangering other people's lives. And then now he's driving 80, 85 miles an hour on the freeway. So now there's a sense of exigent, I've got to get away from the police attitude by the suspect. And it also changed the attitude of law enforcement. As you said, they're not going to let this guy get away. They are going to follow him until this thing ends. That's correct. But I'm just very surprised they really haven't handed this off to CHP, who has massive amount of resources. And as they transition to different CHP areas, CHP would then sort of hand the pursuit off. Right. That is a big question. Maybe we can figure that out a little bit later on as we continue to watch this as it goes down the 405. Keep in mind, this thing started all the way in San Bernardino, and he went on a series of freeways and ending up going all the way through Studio City, Sherman Oaks, and then now going southbound on the 405 freeway. He's eventually going to get to deeper traffic, get towards LAX. We might have to deal with some issues with a helicopter too. You probably didn't notice it, but we had some flight restrictions as we flew down the 134 freeway. You'll notice our helicopter kind of moved over to the left-hand side, getting further away from the airport. We often have to do that. When LAX, the restrictions are even greater, so we'll continue to watch that as he continues southbound on the 405. Yeah, and David, this is coming up on about an hour right now, 6:41. We're learning about this pursuit, so getting into about an hour, and you can see the sunlight is kind of going, so it's sort of that dusk now time. And when you see it, we're passing Santa Monica Boulevard, and you could see this SUV trying to figure out what to do, but the suspect is absolutely not letting anyone over. But he does blinkers, which is very interesting. He tries to mind the rules of the road. Yeah, interesting and semi-ridiculous at the same time when it comes to his behavior. According to Dave Coons, our car specialist, he's done some analysis on this, and he says this appears to be an older model Toyota Camry, 1997 through 2001. Yeah, it's a very popular model, one of the top sellers, so we see a lot of these on the roads even today, but that's what he appears to be driving, a Toyota Camry that was listed as stolen. That's how this pursuit started in San Bernardino. Yeah, and we're learning that the traffic is about to hit a standstill. As many of us know on the 405 in this area, it's usually always a standstill. So to have this break in it, but you can see right there, the traffic is stopped, and one never knows exactly what the suspect's going to do now. I thought maybe he would try to take one of the exits. Sergeant, what is the standpoint of a law enforcement officer? How do they view it being in a pursuit and a wide open road compared to pursuing the guy in traffic? Is one preferred over the other? Yes, and I'll answer in a second. I'm just going to give you a little insight into the pursuit, the minds of the officers. What you have is you have mixed agencies. You have, looks like, San Bernardino Sheriff's, CHP. They're all trained by the state in pursuits. The training is mandatory and very identical. However, the end of the pursuits, as we've seen with LAPD, sheriffs, and other agencies, some will call the suspect back to the patrol cars. Some will lay the suspect into the street. So from a supervisor's point of view, I want one agency who does it one way. I don't want to mix and match, so to speak. Going into your original question, and I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there, was the officers would prefer a wide open freeway because it's less stressful on them. What you have is the officers are not calling the pursuit. The pursuit is being called by the helicopter, meaning the helicopter is giving the direction of travel, the speed, traffic conditions, and is relaying that to the officers. So the officers are just concentrating on following that vehicle and driving, which is a huge relief from the officers involved in the pursuit.
So when you mean the helicopter calls the pursuit, is the helicopter literally telling the officers what to do, or just basically what to prepare for?
What he's doing is because all pursuits are managed by a watch commander. There's also back at a station somewhere, possibly in Chino or in Riverside County, and what you have is a supervisor also involved in the pursuit. So you have the watch commander who's in charge of the pursuit. If he or she doesn't like the traffic conditions, the guy's driving too dangerously, they'll cancel the pursuit or 1022 it based on that, and then they'll go into possibly a tracking mode with the helicopter.
Yeah, you can see Sergeant Thomas, he's leaving himself quite a bit of room to figure out which way he's going to go. Like you said before, many times we see these suspects go back to their comfort zone, which would be in the San Bernardino area, we assume. But he's pretty far out of that comfort zone and now trying to figure out where to go. And it's kind of slowed down again. I wonder if it seems like the level of his aggressiveness has kind of subsided a little.
You know, it might be that, or maybe just because the traffic is so heavy that he doesn't want to crash and end this. He wants to have his freedom as long as he can.
We know that there's a very good chance that's going to come to an end very soon. We just don't know when.
When it comes to being in traffic like this, are there any options for law enforcement to do anything to him? Spike strip, pit maneuver, anything like that? Or does that all go away when you fill the area with bystanders?
Yeah, it pretty much goes away, as you said, David. Safety of the general public is rule number one in any pursuit. So in this case, they're going to stay behind him, lights and siren, and they're going to be content to just follow him because they don't want to endanger anybody or cause him to do something like he did with that fuel truck early in the pursuit by the San Diego Freeway and endanger somebody's life. So in this case, we're going to follow him, we're going to wait this out, and we're going to take him into custody, hopefully without any problems.
Yeah, that maneuver shows you a lot about the suspect and what he's willing to do, which is kind of an education for everybody trying to gauge what he's capable of, and he's capable of almost anything. That was a kind of a frightening situation we just witnessed. It turned out okay, but it was so close to being a real tragedy for a lot of people. So here we are on the 405 freeway. We're trying to get an indication on where exactly they are, but he is not moving rapidly. You see some little breaks in the traffic, but clearly the traffic is not going anywhere. CHP still not in pursuit technically, although we do believe that they are nearby. A number of interesting things have happened on this pursuit. So
we knew he was coming up on Venice Boulevard.
Venice Boulevard. Okay, that gives you an idea. So watch this on your right-hand side. You see he bumped into that white vehicle. Then the pursuing vehicle rams him on the passenger side. That gets him to get up and get aggressive. So you literally see him exiting on an entrance ramp. He just misses that tanker. I think he did too. It looked like there was a little bit of a tilt in the vehicle. And then here you see these rapidly oncoming cars. He's on the shoulder going the wrong direction. You'll see an aggressive maneuver here. This guy slams his brakes, thankfully paying attention, and then he gets into rapidly moving traffic and then starts swimming up the other direction, now going that's how we got onto the southbound 405, but we watched that, and that was nerve-wracking. So, and
here's the pit maneuver just before we saw that crash where he made those erratic moves. There's the pit maneuver where he got away from authorities, and then you can see when he's looking out, trying to see did something possibly happen to his vehicle, or is there something below it? This is very frightening to watch that for sure.
Something else.
But he's been extremely lucky that he has not had some catastrophic injuries caused by his reckless driving. But he doesn't have his lights on. You're looking at the live images right now, and I don't believe that the lights are on in the car. So that even makes it a little more challenging for all the drivers who are on the freeway trying to see a car without their lights on. Is quite jarring in itself. Sergeant Thomas, wouldn't you say when you are driving on the freeway and you don't see the lights on, it just causes a major concern, and it might be a little bit harder for law enforcement to apprehend him?
Oh, definitely. What you do see are the LA motorists which are following the rules of the road. They are yielding to the right. They are slowing down to the left. So they're giving law enforcement a wide berth. As it continues on and gets possibly darker, the units may turn on their floodlights that are on the driver and passenger side to illuminate the vehicle, just to make sure they still have the right vehicle.
And this does seem unusual, Sergeant Thomas, that the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is still on it. At some point, when we saw the CHP pulling up during the last, when they looked like that he was sort of sandwiched in, you saw the CHP on there. It is somewhat unusual to not see the CHP take the lead in this pursuit at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Riverside County Sheriff's Department, which is deep in L.A. County now. So I'm kind of surprised that they have not handed it off. But there may be other factors we don't know that Riverside County really wants this suspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll try to get to the bottom of that. So we don't want to judge that too harshly here. Not that it is something
just
too
interesting.
Yeah,
it is kind of interesting because
interesting.
We see a lot of local law enforcement, and then once you get on the highway, it's sort of the California Highway Patrol's jurisdiction. So we tend to see them, and they do all the they keep switching other patrol cars out and cruisers out to. As they do a pursuit, so it's just it's interesting to see one jurisdiction really on this.
Colleen and David, another factor is radio communication, because they're so far out of their area. Do their antennas and their repeaters, are they able to transmit back and forth, properly with CHP? Their radio system is set up statewide with different channels.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here, that car, it's very dark. It doesn't have its lights on. That is the vehicle being pursued right now. They're sitting on the 405 in some heavy traffic, so they're not moving very fast. But we've had some close calls on this vehicle. If you're just tuning in, this is a pursuit that started in San Bernardino. It is considered a stolen vehicle, but the suspect's behavior is far beyond that. Very dangerous from what we have seen in a couple of moments on this pursuit, Colleen.
Absolutely, and we're learning a little bit more of where the suspect is on the 405 South, about 3 miles north of LAX. So to add more problems for this sort of commute area, people trying to make their way to the airport, it may cause quite a bit of snarls if you're getting onto the 105 from the 405. But again, it's about 3 miles north of LAX on the 405. And you see on the right side of your screen,
the CHP officer,
CHP
I think.
right there.
Yeah,
again,
okay.
And
now they're putting a spot on him. I guess that it helps illuminate, but what's their motivation here, Sergeant?
Just to make sure that they have the right vehicle still, maybe to warn oncoming drivers that there's a vehicle blacked out. And that's what they're doing. They're illuminating that vehicle. And it looks like maybe there may be some issues with the motor of this vehicle, because he slowed down greatly.
Yeah. That or just bizarre behavior, or him just kind of trying to figure out what to do and giving himself a lot of room, which is, it's tough to judge. But it is getting harder and harder to see him, that's for sure, with those lights off like that. But it does allow us to get some idea on what the vehicle is that they're pursuing, because he's the one without his lights on. It's a Toyota Camry. We believe it's a late model, an older model Camry, somewhere between 97 and I think Dave wrote 2000 or 2001, Toyota Camry. And then when you take that shot right there, it helps that they have a spot on him, because it is very dark there. But traffic is going nowhere. He's really bogged down, and it's just, I guess it's a waiting game, Sergeant.
Yeah, at this point with the freeway maybe bogging down, if they can somehow run some traffic breaks, prevent traffic from either side, they might try a pit maneuver again. It seems like the Riverside County Sheriff's is aggressive in that maneuver. Or they may even try a spike strip, depending on how open the freeway can get. But those are all things that are what-ifs right now, because the traffic conditions don't warrant it.
Yeah, look at him. He's really isolated now. He's really, maybe there is something wrong, because basically traffic has moved on. He is out there on his own in the darkness, going very slowly. Maybe fuel is an issue. Maybe there is some kind of a breakdown in his vehicle, or maybe he's just kind of messing around trying to figure out what to do. But that is the 405. And think about this. Think about what this is doing to traffic on the 405, especially if this goes down. This is going to shut down at least that part of the 405 for a while. And boy, this is the worst place to have a problem like that happen.
Yeah, what they're doing is they'll eventually, the Riverside County deputies will kind of position their vehicles to assist and do a felony stop at this point. But they're very content to stay behind him. Don't force the issue. Maybe there is some mechanical issues with this guy. Maybe the guy is realizing this is an effort in futility, and he does want to give up maybe. He's just not sure how to do it.
Right.
Yeah,
so there he is on the side of that 18-wheeler in that dark spot because he does not have his lights on. From what we could see, we only saw one person in the vehicle, but of course, Sergeant, you can't make an assumption like that, but I could only see the driver.
Yeah, the officers have communicated with each other, and the helicopter is giving them a good view as Air 7 is being zoomed in also to see it's one person. However, they'll take that person out of the vehicle, and then they'll clear the vehicle just for precautionary measure.
They wouldn't do a pit maneuver here, would they? I mean, because it's going so slowly, maybe not this moment, but when he was sitting there isolated on the freeway, would that be a moment to do it, or is it just too risky?
You know, at this point, if traffic were to get further ahead of him and the officers would get closer to him, they may try another pit maneuver just because you have multiple lanes of traffic. He's in the center of the freeway, so the conditions may warrant themselves to be ideal for another try.
And these guys have shown some aggressiveness in trying to get this to come to a conclusion. They already tried one pit maneuver when he was moving a lot faster, when that was on the 134, just as he hit the 134. And then we saw that ramming maneuver. And from what I understand, or I believe, I think those vehicles that did that, the officers that did that, are still behind him. It does look like, is there a transfer going on here? There's cars moving up.
Yeah, no, it looks like one of them maybe is a CHP car. It looks like the Riverside County guys are in the triangle there, or gals, and it looks like they're positioning themselves for eventually a felony stop. I don't know what the other vehicle is. It may be a CHP vehicle. So there may be some discussion going on about transition.
And he just took off.
Screaming down.
So he saw an opening, and he hit the accelerator and moved up quickly. It doesn't mean he's going to leave the officers behind. They're still on him, of course. I didn't get very far, but you do see that maybe he is just kind of toying with the situation, trying to figure out what to do and experimenting a little bit with his acceleration. But he accelerated, moved over to the left-hand lane, moved up quite quickly, and then he ran into more traffic. But they're behind him.
Yeah, it's just very dangerous because he has no lights on. So when he goes to darkened areas of the freeway, he's coming up on vehicles very quickly. And that's very dangerous. You see CHP has illuminated him with a spotlight he's turned his lights on. So hopefully that's a little safer for the general public. Yeah,
maybe he even scared himself on that last maneuver, but he didn't have them on when he accelerated like that, but he came to the end of that and he did turn his lights on. Not sure what he's thinking, but you know, he may be under the influence, as you said, and that could be part of the explanation for his erratic behavior and seemingly an inability to think straight in this situation.
Yeah, it looks like now CHP has taken over the pursuit. It looks like if they can push in, it looks like you do have a CHP vehicle there. So it looks like maybe they've decided to hand off.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get Air 7 to try to get that shot when they're in a position that they could do that. They're also dealing with traffic that is approaching LAX, and sometimes that becomes a little bit tricky as well. So, yeah, we'll try to get a shot on the vehicles behind the pursuit to see if a transfer has taken place. There we go. It does look like the CHP might have taken it over, Sergeant.
Yeah, and like you said, they're coming up to LAX now. You've got some major flight restrictions and airspace restrictions, so it's going to hamper that's following the vehicle.
Okay, he's going, that's a 90 freeway, so most of us are pretty familiar with the 405 and passing through the 90, and that's where they are as they're approaching the area of LAX, going southbound on the 405 freeway. Always very sticky right there, especially in the evening commute, although I have to say the freeways are a little bit more open than normal, but still a lot of traffic out there, and by being in this pursuit, you're around a lot of innocent people, and that makes it extremely complicated for law enforcement. By the way, we have been talking to Sergeant Bruce Thomas, retired Sheriff's Department. Thank you so much for being with us and helping us out on this. And what do you think so far? Is this one of those things that just could go on for a long time?
You know, like Dave Kuntz, your auto expert, said, depending on the type of fuel this vehicle has, it's pretty economical. It could go for a while. It seems like this guy does not want to give up. So in this case, the officers will just go into a pursuit tracking mode, follow him, stay with him, and hopefully he just pulls over and gives himself up.
Yeah, it is amazing. In the past, I've had a car stolen. I had no gas, and the car broke down basically around the corner from my house. This is incredible that this person can go so far. If this started in San Bernardino and it's near LAX now, I mean, that was a full tank of gas.
Well, the car may have been stolen, a while back, and he might have filled the tank. Who knows what the circumstances are when it comes to this? But here we go. This is where we kind of get into that theory of he's all by himself. He's isolated. Clearly, there's traffic nearby, but he's got a little bit of clearance, and perhaps that might be an opportunity to do something there for law enforcement. But boy, making those decisions has to be really tough.
It does. Speed is a huge issue. Unfortunately, they're going way too fast to do a pit maneuver because even if you pit the suspect vehicle, what happens to the officer's vehicle? Does it careen into a K-rail? Does the officer get hurt? And that's the last thing anybody wants, especially a supervisor involved in the pursuit or the watch commander or any of the other officers involved in the pursuit.
Right. Okay. By the way, just a programming note, it's a 7:56 right now. This broadcast is going to end in just a few minutes, but we're going to move everything over to digital. We're not going to let this pursuit go. We're going to stay on top of it. Sergeant, we'd love for you to stay with us if you can. We're talking to Sergeant Bruce Thomas, retired LA Sheriff Sergeant. He's 27 years of experience, very helpful on this pursuit. But we are going to move off of KDOC, eventually move it over to the ABC7 app and ABC7.com and ABC7 Facebook.
Absolutely. Again, Sergeant Thomas, we really do appreciate your insight into this and just kind of guiding us through, because I find that it's very interesting to think about what is going on in the mind of the law enforcement officer who's trying to figure out, what do we do? Do we stay in tracking? The watch commander, a tremendous amount of pressure on that person right now as well.
Yeah, that's correct. The watch commander is making his or her decisions based on the input from the officers in the field.
Yeah, and then going, getting so close to LAX, we're talking about the airspace. And, a lot of people, obviously we know there's a lot of people in the community who are looking up going, why are there so many helicopters up above? And a lot of people just are perplexed over, they don't naturally know what's going on. So this pursuit is certainly making its way quite a distance through the Southland tonight. And
Sergeant, have you been aware, are suspects usually aware of the helicopters overhead? I mean, I guess if you're pursuit savvy and you see it on the air, you pretty much get pretty familiar with how this is done. But do you run into suspects who are completely unaware that somebody's monitoring them from overhead?
As comical, I guess, as it sounds, they really don't think about the helicopter at all. Their focus is on the red lights behind them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense, though, too, because, you're looking straight in front of you.
Yeah.
Your thought, who knows what you're hearing. You don't even know if you're hearing those sirens at that point. You have so much adrenaline going on.
But it does make sense then when you go into tracking mode and you pull off the suspect, and if he's really focused on you, that could work because he's thinking the pressure's been alleviated, but it's kind of an illusion because you're still being followed, but just overhead, and you're probably less aware of that. So, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Our producer now, Carp, I know we only got another minute and a half or so on the air, but do you know where exactly they are? Let's try to get it. Okay, in just a moment, we're going to be at LAX. So, basically, if you know the 405, I guess that's near the Century exit. Okay, we're going to pull out and show you where LAX is.
Right there, you see the
runways.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're basically right at LAX. So he's going to be coming up from the 405. He has is a 105 as an option.
The 105 is the option.
Stay on 405 and continue to head southbound. There you see the long shot, the suspect right there in the middle of your screen with the CHP in pursuit, and he's kind of got some wide open space there. But dealing with speed, we're trying to figure out exactly how fast he is going, but he seems to be going close to the speed limit, but we'll try to get an indicator from Air 7 in just a second. 55, 60 miles an hour. Okay, so they've picked up from when they were really slowed down by all the traffic.
Well, they certainly are. And they're getting near the coastline, too, if they keep on going. And there's going to be several other options. So, again, stay with us. You hear the music. We're about to switch to digital, to ABC7 Los Angeles app, to ABC7.com and Facebook.
We on? Okay. Welcome, everybody, to... Sergeant Bruce Thomas, retired, 27 years of experience, including in pursuits, who's been extremely helpful in allowing us to understand what's going on here. As we watch this pursuit, it came across as a stolen vehicle way over in San Bernardino, Colleen, and then here we are, southbound 405 passing LAX. Yeah,
this has been going on nearly an hour and a half now, to our knowledge. And so we've been watching Air 7 HD following the suspect in the vehicle. It's a stolen, suspected stolen vehicle. But again, as we bring in Sergeant Thomas, well, we're talking to a new audience as well. Sergeant Thomas, talk about what you have witnessed during the last hour of this pursuit.
Well, what you've seen is you've seen the driver. He was driving fairly normal. Speeds were not excessive. And then you saw the lead agency, in this case, Riverside County Sheriff's, kind of push the issue a little bit. There was a traffic accident. There was also a collision with the police vehicle and the suspect vehicle. And then he got very aggressive, going the wrong way down an on-ramp, going the wrong way actually on the 405 freeway, northbound in the southbound lanes. And then he made a U-turn, picked up speed, headed southbound on the 405. That's some great breakneck speeds, 80, 85 miles an hour. And so that's kind of where we are now, and he's headed down by LAX.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've been watching this, Sergeant Thomas, we also talked about the suspect being very erratic inside the vehicle. Didn't have a shirt on at one point, and then he sort of covered himself up, and he has a sweatshirt on, and so. We are learning some new details, though, from Dave Coons, our auto specialist, that the fuel capacity on this Toyota Camry is 18.5 gallons. So even with half a tank of fuel, when they started, they could go 150 to 200 miles. So you were just talking about this being a very fuel-efficient vehicle. Well, it certainly is proving to be the case now. And joining me now is Mark Brown. As we continue our live coverage on our ABC7 digital platforms, we are in El Segundo right now. Carper, can you tell me what freeway are we? Are we still on the? Are we on the 105 right there?
That's 405.
It's still 405
southbound.
Yeah, hitting that. I'm somewhat familiar with this area, but I usually take the 105. So the 405 south. So. Making its way through El Segundo, and we'll see exactly where this, ends up going through the beach cities as well.
It's going to be heading toward the beach cities and beyond. If he continues on this path, he's going to pass through, if he's in El Segundo now, the next city would be Hawthorne. And after that would be Lawndale, then Torrance, and then, Manhattan Beach. Yeah, and
all
then
these right there.
Carson, Harbor City. And then beyond that, further south and heading, continuing on, Long Beach and all that. But we'll have to see if, what he decides to do. He's been pretty erratic, as you have been describing, at least in the earlier portions of the chase. And now just continuing on the southbound 405, limited by the traffic ahead of him. Can't really do too much high-speed maneuvering at this point. But some strange maneuverings going on inside the car, as you were mentioning.
Absolutely, some very bizarre. And I'm trying to see if we're allowed to show any video from, say, the initial, right when this this pursuit sort of starts. So we're going to look at the 101, and he gets pit maneuvered by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, and then that moment it sort of intensifies this pursuit. And then we're going to see right there, Mark, where we're talking about, he looks out and he gets very scared. Then he like almost falls out, whoop, right there. And he's trying to see, did something happen maybe to his vehicle? And then we're going to show the other image where he gets in this slow collision with the car. and then it's when it just starts firing up.
Wow.
Right here, they try to sandwich him. He gets around it, and we are joined on the phone. We want to say by retired LA County Sheriff Sergeant Bruce Thomas. Sergeant Thomas, we're showing where this suspect then almost, it looks like he did just taps that tanker and is going.
And then he hit that car, that other SUV. There we go. Back live. They got a successful pit maneuver now by the CHP. The other vehicles had tried to pit him and couldn't. They have spun him out now. And as Dave Coons has advised me in the past, what happens frequently when there's a mechanism within the car that when it detects a spin of this type at this speed, it automatically disconnects the fuel pump or disconnects the fuel supply to the engine. Because you don't want to have a fiery crash if the car is spinning out. So that's a safety feature. And it has spun out the car, and he's not going anywhere at this point. He has stopped. If he's able to move, he's not. And if he's unable to move, he's not going anywhere. He is still in the vehicle, and you see CHP officers there with their guns drawn. This is a dangerous part of the pursuit right here. This is the 405 freeway.
In Hawthorne right now.
In Hawthorne. Okay, we're not sure what the nearest off-ramp is. We'll try to get that to you. And he's, is he in the back seat? Has he gone to the back seat of the vehicle? Is it going to become a standoff now? He's in the back seat.
In the back seat. David Ona's just
David still watching from a monitor. You can get a pretty close view, but that presents another problem. Back seat. Is he holed up back there? Is there a weapon back there? You notice nobody's approaching the vehicle at this point. Yeah, he's moving around a lot, and this is dicey. If they think they see a weapon, they're going to fire. If they believe he's got a weapon, if they have some evidence that he has a weapon, they're going to fire. Or they'll be entitled to fire, I should say, in defense of their own lives and to protect the public as well.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, Mark, one of the things is you have possibly now what turns into a barricaded suspect, where they'll bring some specialized officers in, some maybe sheriff's SEB or CHP officers that are cross-trained in SWAT. But one of the things you don't want is the suspect moving around like that, because that kind of amps it up more for the officers, too. What is he doing? Is he reaching a weapon? Is he looking for a weapon? But also the use of deadly force is governed by the reverence for
He just fired what appears to have been a non-lethal round, because that shotgun appeared to have been wrapped in some sort of reflective tape as opposed to a normal shotgun. Now, all right, we're trying. Yeah, he's firing. Yeah, he's smashing the windows with a beanbag round, it looks like. So
yeah, they might be firing some less lethal rounds to possibly break the window, maybe for the infusion of some pepper balls with OC gas.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a canine
it's a canine going in, and it's going to subdue him. That dog just hopped in, and it is now.
There's a wrestle inside there with the dog.
Wow.
It's unusual to see them bring that dog in right there where you don't know if that suspect's armed.
I don't know what agency unleashed their dog to go in there to get him, but it has worked. They got the suspect now. The dog is still chewing on him.
The dog is
still on him. That is a Belgian Malinois now that is really clamping down. He's on top of the dog. Suspect is on top of the dog. They're
this is, what is he?
Dog's not letting go. Dog. They haven't called the dog off yet, or if they have, he's not coming off of the guy. But they have him now out of the vehicle. You see a couple of CHP officers and one dog handler that has now pulled the dog off of the suspect. Now they're putting the cuffs on him. You see that several officers now on him. He's not moving. Not clear if he is resisting at this point or if, yeah, looks like they got him. He just tapped the guy in the back, and looks like they got him. That's it. It's code 4. Here's the video in the upper right-hand corner. This is the video of the actual pit maneuver that was employed to bring this pursuit to an end.
CHP is so good at doing these. Just Sergeant Thomas, can you see it right there too? The pit maneuver.
Yeah, you know that's what the dog is trained for. It looks like they broke the window to infuse the dog into the situation. The dog will go in. It's a bite dog. It will grab the suspect, hopefully force the suspect to get out of the vehicle, which he did in this case. The dog will still remain latched on until called off by the handler, and they take him in this custody without any injuries beyond the bite. to the officers or the suspects.
Right, and the dog worked, and now it appears that the suspect he's definitely in custody. The body language of the officers surrounding him has gotten a lot more relaxed. They've cleared the car. There's nobody else in there, and now you see different police officers now coming up and getting involved here. I'm not sure, was the original agency that was involved in this, was that
San Bernardino County Sheriff? And they've stayed on it up until just moments ago, Sergeant Thomas. Remember, they were the lead agency on this for majority of this until the last maybe 10 minutes or so, would you say?
Yeah, it may be the other agency, maybe Hawthorne or maybe El Segundo.
Sure.
Maybe they requested some mutual assistance. The other thing now that it is Code 4, as Mark said, you have hours of paperwork now.
You see the guy kind of walking, kind of bewildered or in a daze, but
or hurt.
Yeah, that's a good possibility as well. These dogs are really incredible when you see them go into action. It's no joke. But Sergeant Thomas, also when we talk about the dogs going. We're watching some earlier video of the suspect on our right-hand side where the suspect was moving all about in that car. And then when we saw one of the officers use a non-lethal force to break that window as well. So,
all right, here.
Right here.
Let's take a look here. This is video from earlier where the beanbag rounds were employed to break the window. There you see.